Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today, as I wait for the box office numbers to officially update, which as a precursor, let me just say that you do have indeed a situation where Endgame has now made over $2.1 billion, meaning it has now outgrossed Infinity War and pretty much any other film that was close to that number in its first 2 weeks. So that would also include things like The Force Awakens, which made just a little over $2 billion. And that means that this movie is an absolute juggernaut. It's absolutely insane. The MCU is in a very good place financially, and I think that it really is going to be interesting to see where the future of this franchise goes, seeing that they've now lost some key characters, lost some key actors. Now, whether or not they try and bring them back with all the time travel nonsense, who knows? But the MCU is in a pretty good place, at least at this point in time, financially so. Very different story when it comes to the DCEU. Now, notice how I'm talking about the DC Extended Universe or the Worlds of DC or whatever it is that they're going to call it these days, and not talking specifically about anything that deals with Nolan's trilogy for Batman or anything like that, because those are independent stories. Those do not count. The first DC Universe, Extended Universe film was Man of Steel. Man of Steel was the one that got it all, got it off the bat. Man of Steel made a pretty decent amount of money. However, what you saw as each film subsequently came out was that each film never really lived up to the expectations that many people had for it. You had Batman v Superman, which was supposed to be a gigantic billion-dollar franchise, and it only made up around $850 million or so, which is nothing to snuff at, but still not nearly the number that they were probably expecting. And it was all trying to build up towards the first Justice League film. Justice League made $650 million and is still to this day the lowest grossing DC Extended Universe film. That is, of course, I think, until Shazam. I think Shazam is going to be the lowest grossing. The difference, though, is Shazam costs significantly less to make than Justice League. And so I honestly think that when you look at just the financials of it, that financially speaking, Shazam will be more financially successful than Justice League ever was because of the fact that it costs significantly less money. So even though Shazam's going to probably, top out around $400 million or so, and Justice League made around $650, because it costs like almost 3 times as much to make that film, because Shazam would cost about $100 million or so to make. When you look to Justice League, it costs well over $300 million, and so the fact that it's only about $200 million difference at the box office tells me all I really need to know about as far as which one's going to be more financially successful or not. However, the biggest question that a lot of people have is, what is the future of the DC universe going to be? What is the future of the DC cinema? And really, it's a big question mark, because there are obviously a lot of people who are excited for certain films. Like, for example, the Matt Reeves Batman, a lot of people really want to see it. It has a lot of really good hype around it, and people are excited for it. However, it has been going through production hell, because as you can see, it has now been pushed back again. It was supposed to start filming this year, and now it's been pushed back even further. And it really has that question, are we ever going to get the Matt Reeves Batman, or is Matt Reeves just going to abandon the project altogether? The biggest problem with DC at this point in time is the fact that over at Warner Brothers, they do not have a Kevin Feige-like person. Some people are going to try and throw some names out and say, oh, but this person has the same job. They might have the same job, but they're not doing the same thing. Kevin Feige over the MCU, despite the fact I don't like the direction he's currently taken the MCU, especially after the events of Endgame and Captain Marvel and all those other things, at the very least, though, he was able to build over 21 films, 20 films, you don't count those last 2, that were for the most part almost all good. And if not at the very least good, you could say that they all were very profitable. Even the 2 that I'm leaving off were still very profitable. The fact that Endgame is going to still continue to make money and will likely be able to take the spot of Avatar and even get close to the $3 billion mark says a lot. You can't really say the same thing about the DC Universe. Things have been very start and stop. The highest grossing film yet of these films has been, a battle between BVS and Wonder Woman. And I honestly think Wonder Woman 1984 has a very good chance of being the first billion-dollar franchise, the first billion-dollar product for them to be able to release. The biggest issue, though, is that they don't have a forward-thinking vision. The fact that you have all of these projects going on behind the scenes that are either being delayed or being said, oh yeah, there's no real direct connection to everything else. For example, the Joker film coming out in October. We've been told that it is, of course, the Joker, so it is set in the Batman universe, but that Jared Leto is still around, that he is still somewhat going to be the possibility of being the Joker again. I mean, Bounding in the Comics talked about this as well, that Jared Leto reveals that he is open to returning and they just haven't talked to him yet, meaning that they have not said that they are done with his version of the Joker, that he's very much still an open possibility to join onto that project. That, to me, provides a lot of confusion, because now you have 2 different actors portraying the same role, both by films by Warner Brothers, both within the DC universe. However, one might be Extended Universe, one might not be. One might be an independent verse, one might not be. And this is this whole world of DC nonsense. And I understand that some people are trying to say that DC is not going in the same direction of the MCU because they don't want to. The MCU has already done it. Why would they want to repeat it, especially since superhero fatigue is likely going to start setting in with people not wanting to see these films? The problem, though, is that we have not really seen that come to fruition yet. The fact that Endgame has already made more than Infinity War, which came out just a year ago, in the first 2 weeks of its release, tells you all you need to know. That if they make good movies and if they have a good build-up to a large event, they can make money. There's a huge chance that they could have a gigantic success and a successful franchise on their hands. It seems to me, though, that they would rather try and play this game of, well, we don't want to be like them, we want to be different, we want to be unique, and then you just have all these other nonsense. I mean, Aquaman was, of course, a big success. I forgot about Aquaman. Aquaman was their first billion-dollar film. So sorry, I was a little bit wrong about that, but they have their first billion-dollar film in Aquaman. But Aquaman was kind of a rarity because no film has really ever done as well as Aquaman did, especially with the foreign market. And then you have the follow-up with Shazam, supposed to happen in the same universe, and it made like less than half of what that film made. Now, of course, you can say that there are different characters and there's different marketing strategies and name recognition, and those are all things that are true. But what you see is that the question still remains, is Shazam even within the DC extended universe? Because they show Superman, but they don't really show who's playing Superman. Obviously, there's a lot of confusion going on whether Henry Cavill is going to be still playing Superman, whether they're going to renew his contract, whether he's asking for too much money at this point. And so there are a lot of big things, like what is actually going to happen, what is going to go on. But this causes me a lot of frustration because I really would like to see a great universe built up. I think they did some really good stuff with Aquaman. I have some issues with the film overall, but for the most part, the character was done pretty well. Wonder Woman has been, I think, the biggest success so far because the character has been great and financially they've been doing pretty well. I think 1984 is going to do even better than the first film. Again, being a second DC film to break $1 billion, maybe even making more, potentially making more than Aquaman, though of course that still remains to be seen because marketing and country releases and country reception, etc., those are all still questions that are up in the air. The biggest problem, though, is that Batman is a huge question mark. The Flashpoint movie that was supposed to have been made at this point was supposed to have already started filming at this point. Giant question mark. Any of the other future movies, Justice League 2, Man of Steel 3, I mean, all of these things, or Man of Steel 2 technically, all of these things are still up in the air. And there is no one who has any answers. And anyone that tries to explain that, oh, they're going in this direction or they're trying to do this or that, immediately it seems within a week, all of a sudden it no longer becomes true. So basically, you have a lot of chaos going on behind the scenes, which is just bizarre to me because it's just Warner Brothers here. It's not like a Fox Disney situation, or it is not even like a Sony Disney situation with Spider-Man. This is one company that owns the rights to the characters and could do whatever the hell they wanted, but instead they're either dragging their feet or they just have no idea what the hell to do with them. To be honest, I honestly would say if you want to actually create a DCEU, it might even be better just for them to scrap everything and start afresh. Now, again, I think that there are better ways to do it. I think that you should keep on Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman because I think she's fantastic. Obviously, I would say Jason Momoa's Aquaman would be another great choice too. But maybe from there, you just make some Flashpoint movie. You could easily bring in the Flash, and you could have it even be a different actor because Flashpoint can help describe that because of the time travel aspect, different reality aspect, and you could be able to explain why now there are different actors playing these other characters. I mean, obviously, it would be a little bit messy because time travel is always messy, but if they were to at least follow their own rules and do it right, unlike what Endgame did, then you might actually be able to convince certain people and also get people to buy in to the product, especially if you're able to cast really great actors as new Batman, as new Superman, etc. Again, if those are the issues that are going on. But anyway, what are y'all guys' thoughts? Do you think that we're ever going to get the Matt Reeves Batman again? I mean, let's just see. We have this small Batman update for you. Hearing the script is still being polished up, and there's a possibility shooting begins at the top of 2020 instead of fall of 2019. So again, continues to be pushed back, which means it'll probably still be a minute before we find out the next Caped Crusader. So again, giant question mark. Who's going to be the next Batman? We don't know. Is Superman even still around? Is Henry Cavill even going to get a contract? Again, according to him, he says that he's still on, but we still aren't hearing anything when it comes to future films. You have the Birds of Prey film coming out, but even that one, it's like, okay, so you're saying that Suicide Squad is still canon because you're keeping these characters, but then you're also doing Suicide Squad 2, or it's being called The Suicide Squad, which is going to be even more confusing, seeing that the first film was called just Suicide Squad, and it's not a sequel, according to the director James Gunn. It's going to instead be a reboot. Which also, again, begs the question, how can it be a reboot if you're still keeping on certain actors who are portraying certain characters? This doesn't make any sense. They're basically falling themselves into a trap of not making any sense, and we've seen what that's going to be doing for the future of the MCU. I mean, that's the reason why Endgame might be doing well now, but the ramifications of Endgame, I think, are going to have much more of a financial impact than people realize. I think that whatever they decide to do in Far From Home, if they decide to continue to talk about these time travel elements, if they really try to double down and say, we do have a multiverse here now, and there's rumors now that In Spider-Man, they're going to say that one of the villains is actually from an alternate reality, and if they decide to go in that direction and open up for a multiverse, it might help to explain some of the problems with Endgame, but it also just creates an entirely new scenario, entirely new situation where all of a sudden any actor who dies can come back for any reason, and it's going to become very, very messy. Now, they could do it right. However, after Endgame, I'm not quite sure that they can. But I would love to hear your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. Are you excited for Matt Reeves' Batman? Do you think we're actually going to get a Matt Reeves Batman? And who do you think is the top candidate to play Batman? Obviously, I think there's a lot of people that you could throw out there. I know that some people have said there are certain actors that really just portray that type of Bruce Wayne character. And it really depends on how old you want the Batman character to be. I think John Hamm would be an instance of an older Batman that you could possibly make work. You could do an old man Batman. It would be really cool to me if they did like an old man Batman, almost like a Batman Beyond. If you somehow get Michael Keaton to come back to play old Bruce Wayne and get a really, nice, like awesome up-and-coming actor to play the new Batman, that could be really cool. So those are just my thoughts, because again, I do like DC properties. So there's some people that have this, this false perception that for some reason I'm anti-DC, which is just not the case at all. I love DC properties. I just don't like the direction of the DCU because there is no direction at this point. Zack Snyder, I think, and I know I'm going to piss off the Zack Snyder fanboys out there, but he did not do a great job at building a universe. It was very lazy. It was very poor writing. It was very poor world building, and that's why we're in this situation now. Because let's say that he had done a great job, and all the same things had happened in his personal life. And again, my heart goes out to him for that. Then guess what? They would have been able to pick up what he left and said, okay, we can continue going in the division that he had. But what happened instead? He stepped away and they said, okay, well, this is a giant mess, and so now we can't move forward with any of this because it is just disgusting. It's awful. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on that and the future of the DC property as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please smash the like button, give me a subscribe. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.